All right, let's talk about stubbornness. But we're not going to do it the old-fashioned way. Today, we're treating the mind like an operating system, and we're going to run a system reset on one of its oldest, most persistent bugs.
So let's just dive right in. What if I told you that most of your daily frustration, your stress, isn't actually a personal failing? What if it's just a software glitch? A little piece of buggy code that's been running in the background of the human OS for, about 2,500 years. It's an ancient problem for sure, but we're about to look at it through a completely new lens.
I mean, really think about this for a second. Forget psychology and think like a coder. Your mind is the OS, and those big recurring struggles, the things that just keep causing friction in your life, they aren't you. They're just old, inefficient lines of code. So what if the answer isn't to keep adding more apps and updates, but to finally find and delete the bug?
Okay, so our system analysis has to start with the bug itself. And what's really cool is that using AI to map ancient Pali texts, a core cluster of ideas has been identified. We're going to call it Cluster A, or to put it simply, the stubbornness code. This is the source of all that mental friction.
At the very heart of this bug is an old Pali word, sankhara. Now, let's break this down by its sound, which tells us everything. San means to pile things up, to collect them and stamp them as mine. And kara, that just means action. So sankhara is literally the act of piling up attachments and hard-coding my way or my style into your system over and over again.
And this right here is the core of the whole issue. Every single time you insist, nope, things have to be this way, you're just reinforcing that rigid code. The data is crystal clear on this. That stubborn, hard-coded style of yours, it's not a feature. It's the main engine generating all the friction in your system.
Okay, so you've got this buggy program running. What happens next? Well, any buggy program is eventually going to crash against the system's core functions, right? That brings us to Cluster B, which you can think of as reality's built-in debugger. These are the unavoidable error messages the universe sends when your stubborn code just doesn't compute. The first error message you'll see is Anika. Now, you've probably heard this translated as impermanence. Just forget that for a minute. The original sounds tell the real story. A means not, ni means to lead, and icha is desire. Put it together, Anika is the universe bluntly telling you you cannot lead things according to your desire. It's uncontrollable. That's the error message, plain and simple.
So what happens when your code tries to force that uncontrollable reality into a box it just won't fit in? You get the next error message. Dukkha. Du means bad, ka means to contain or to hold. So dukkha is that awful feeling of friction. It's the system overheating as your hard-coded wants grind against the gears of what actually is.
And then you get the final, system-wide critical error, anatta. This one tells you there's no permanent master or central admin in charge of the whole system. A means not, and atha means mastery or substance. It's the system itself telling you that this whole idea of a fixed controlling me who can bend reality to its will, well, that's a programming illusion.
So let's be really clear here. Anika, dukkha, anatta, these aren't some kind of pessimistic cosmic curse. Not at all. They're just functional diagnostic tools. They're reality's error messages popping up to let you know, hey, your code is bugged. It's out of sync with how things actually work.
Which, of course, brings us to the solution, Cluster C. And this is the part that might really surprise you. The fix isn't about installing new software. It's not about adding more features. The path to a smooth, optimized system, to freedom, is about one thing and one thing only: running a debugging script. It's all about deletion.
And this is where the AI data is just fascinating. When you map these concepts, Cluster C is in the exact opposite direction of Cluster A. It's a perfect negative correlation. Stubbornness is all about adding my way, my style, my preferences. Liberation, it's about deleting all those rigid attachments, moving the system back towards a flexible, neutral, zero state.
So, the first part of this reset is nibbana. Ni means without, and vana, that means binding, like weaving something into a tight knot. See, when your stubborn code clashes with reality, it creates this tangled knot of mental conflict. Nibbana is simply the process of unbinding that knot, releasing the system from its own self-imposed tangles. Next up is viraga, and this one is beautiful. Think of raga as intense color, like a fiery red, the heat of passion and desire, that red-hot insistence on my way. V just means away from. So viraga is the process of that color fading. The system cools down. The passion of stubbornness just drains away, and what's left behind is a cool, transparent clarity. And the final state of this liberation is nirodha. Once again, ni means without, and rodha, that means walls, or even a fortress. Our stubbornness builds these huge defensive walls around our ego. I have to be right. They have to respect me. Nirodha is the state where those walls are just gone, completely dismantled. There's nothing left for reality to collide with, just open space.
Okay, so theory is great, but what does any of this actually look like in the real world on, a Tuesday afternoon? Let's run a few quick simulations and see how this whole A to B to C process plays out.
All right, scenario 1, your phone. The stubborn code in your system says, my phone must be perfect. But then reality hits. Literally, the screen shatters. That's anicca, an event you couldn't control. The awful friction you feel between your code and reality, that's dukkha. The system reset happens when you just accept that things break. The mental binding, the vana, to that perfect phone is released. Boom, nibbana. The conflict is unbound. Let's try another one, criticism. Oof. Your code says, I must be respected. So you've built this wall around your ego, a rodha. When someone criticizes you, it feels like they're attacking that wall, and you feel that friction. The reset? You delete the wall. That's nirodha. When there's no wall, the criticism just passes right through. There's nothing for it to hit.
And here's a universal one. Aging. The code says, I must stay young. The error message pops up as wrinkles, gray hair, a process you have no ultimate mastery over. That's anatta. The reset here is viraga, letting that bright red, passionate color of your attachment to youth just fade away. You cool down, you accept the natural flow of life, and you find peace in it. So, let's bring this all home. What is the big takeaway here? The goal of this whole system reset isn't to become some superhuman who feels no pain. It's actually much, much simpler and way more profound than that.
This is so important. This freedom, this liberation, it isn't something new you have to go out and get. It's your mind's factory setting. It's the calm, comfortable, efficient state you naturally return to once you stop running that buggy code of stubbornness. It's a restoration, not an acquisition. And that really is the whole point. This puts the power right back in your hands. You are the system administrator of your own mind. You've seen the bug, you know the error messages, and now you have the debugging tools. So the only real question left is, what line of code will you choose to delete first?